Antonio Thompson, who's with us, has a really unusual, I think, and interesting and very worthwhile project that he's worked on. He said, I think you said 2009, working with marching arts. And that's something, frankly, I hadn't heard of before. Maybe other people have, but it's putting music to a very practical and worthwhile use, in addition to just being an awful lot of fun. So, Antonio, we're very happy to have you with us today. I mentioned sometimes people stroll in later, but we like to start pretty darn close to time. And here you are. Thank you very much. And we turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy, for having me this afternoon. Super excited to be sharing with you a little bit about the organization, the BKSteppers. I'll dive more into our background in just a moment, but I want to share with you just a couple video clips of the work that we do and some of the performances that we've had recently through some videos here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick, then I'll come back, tell you more about myself, a little bit more about the organization, and then how we kind of came to this idea of using the marching arts to help youth thrive, not only musically, but also academically, and get them on the pathway to college. So I'm going to go ahead and if you have questions, I want to keep this very interactive. I have slides, obviously, with some notes that I want to share with you all. But if there are questions throughout, just drop them in the chat. I'm definitely want to, get those answered and vibe through this presentation.
Okay. Yeah, they'll put them in chat, and we'll either jump in and ask you, or we may hold some to later on. Anyway, go ahead, Antonio. All good.
Fantastic. All right. So this is a video, about 5 minutes, of two performances that we've done previously.
Spike Lee, pretty cool.
And now performing Live in the Moment with the BKSteppers and the PS22 Chorus, please welcome Grammy winners, Portugal the Man.
Always go.
Okay, so those were just two clips of performances that we've done with the kids. One was working with Spike Lee for his Netflix special, She's Gotta Have It. And the other one was us on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert performing with a pretty awesome band. Those two performances are just a glimpse of what we do as an organization. As outlined in the lecture description, we recognize that the arts and the qualities and skills that they build are essential for the growth of New York City's youth, but youth in general. And arts enrichment activities are oftentimes the first thing cut from school budgets when fiscal crises come around, and people are trying to figure out, okay, how do we manage resources? The arts are oftentimes the first to be cut, and this is incredibly tragic and detrimental for all communities, but they impact low-income minority communities the most because the arts have such a valuable impact in their lives. And so as an organization, what we've decided to do is use the art form marching arts, which is really marching band, to introduce students to the arts, get them excited about performing and playing, but create pathways for college. And so that's going to talk to you all about this afternoon. So I got some slides here. Answer your questions again. I'm more than happy to take them throughout this presentation, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
I just wanted to ask a quickie question for you.
Yeah.
Are a nonprofit organization, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that's really important. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, share screen and play.
There
So
you go.
you can see my screen, everybody?
Yeah.
Awesome. So the topic is marching towards a brighter future. That's our tagline. How we at BKSteppers empower youth to thrive through Drumline. As Judy mentioned, I'm Antonio Thompson, the executive director of BKSteppers Marching Arts, and I've been in this role for since 2009. I am a musician by trade. I play jazz and classical trumpet. Graduated from New York University with a bachelor's and master's degrees in music, and also Columbia University, where I received a master's in fundraising management. So that's where the nonprofit and raising money kind of intertwined for me. But my start in music started with playing a classical and jazz trumpet, and recently I started teaching myself how to play the bass guitar, which is
Acoustic guitar or electric?
both, actually, acoustic and bass. So I have both. So it's been an experience with that. But today you're going to discover how we use the power and precision of the marching arts, specifically drumline, and these incredible opportunities, performance opportunities to develop skills in youth, critical thinking skills, and how we use this to help them impact their own lives, lives of other organizations, individuals, and communities. And so a little bit about the organization. It's kind of what we're talking about today, about the organization, the need in New York City and beyond, a little bit about the origins of the marching arts form, because people, may be familiar with the marching band, activity. In New York, it's not really a big thing, except for when you see parades. But we'll talk a little about that and how we kind of use the historically Black college university marching band style to really attract, retain, and inspire young people. Talk a little about what we do, some success stories, and then I've got a little group activity. So if you have like chopsticks or pencils, we'll do a little quick a drumming activity towards the end. So the BKSteppers is a New York City premier marching arts organization committed to developing personal excellence in young people through unique and innovative educational programming and once-in-a-lifetime performance opportunities. We have become a cultural staple in the arts community for having performed for elected officials, professional recording artists, and increasingly frequent appearances in television and other media. We are dedicated to bringing quality music education experiences to young people living in historically underserved communities of New York City and beyond. So we have programs not only in New York City, We also have programs in Westchester, New York, and also Rochester, New York. And in these programs, we're teaching young people the value of personal excellence through the marching arts. We were founded in 1989, seems like years ago, 1989, and we've been very fortunate enough to be around this long. We've impacted over 4,800 students, young people in our programs. We've been on pretty much anything you can think of, whether it be television, sporting events, at the UN, numerous films and television. We do bar mitzvahs and weddings. It's just the whole gamut. And the interesting thing about the organization is, students having this, and people who are, if you're in the arts, are you familiar with how the arts can impact young people, right? That level of confidence, that level of awareness that they get from performing is just incredible.
Two quick questions for you, Antonio.
Yeah.
4,800 is a very large number, so I'm kind of curious how many at a time and how young. The video you showed us, it looked like they were really young kids.
Yeah, so we serve kids from K to 12, and we typically serve about 250 students a year, sometimes more, just depending on school partnerships.
Okay, thank you.
And with that also, during COVID, we had to obviously pivot like everyone else. During COVID, we did a lot of virtual programming. So we had a virtual percussion event that not only served our existing audience, but we were able to reach out to other communities outside of New York City and even globally. We had a 3-day percussion summit that was attended by folks in California, in Europe, in Spain. It was just very, very successful. And as things have changed, right, we've also evolved as well, introducing new programming for public and charter schools, ranging from hand drumming to students in Brooklyn, to marching percussion and drumline to kids, Guyanese kids in South Ozone Park, Queens. So let's talk about the need in New York City and beyond, right? We all know that the arts and the qualities and the skills the arts build are essential for New York City's future and for New York City students. The Department of Education, one of the most complex and diverse school systems in the United States, estimates that about 73% of its students are economically disadvantaged and 83% are minorities. Research shows, though, through the NEA, that disadvantaged youth who have high levels of arts engagement show more positive outcomes in a variety of areas than their low arts engaged peers. For example, disadvantaged youth who have a history of in-depth arts involvement earn better grades, are likely to graduate from high school, demonstrate higher rates of college enrollment and better college performance. And so in school and extracurricular programs offering arts involvements, it really helps narrow the gap in achievement levels between the underserved youth in New York City and their quote unquote more privileged peers. However, we all know this to be true that, arts sometimes aren't as funded as heavily as other activities. And oftentimes they are the first to be sacrificed, as I mentioned earlier. We are in the arts capital of the world, right? In a city where arts enrichment is already scarce for students of underserved, under-resourced communities, the need for our programming and other programs like us is more urgent. So the BK, let me go back a little bit before I go on. We serve students who reside in communities of New York City communities of Brownsville, Central Brooklyn, East New York, Northwest Brooklyn, Borough Park, Southwestern Queens and Harlem, as well as Rochester and Westchester, as I mentioned before. And these communities where high school graduation rates are well below city rates, poverty is the highest and access to affordable and culturally relevant arts program is often non-existent. And that's where the drumline activity is so profound and so powerful, because the students can relate to it. And I'll talk about this a little bit later on, but to really attract and maintain the attention of young people, you need something that's, engaging, something that they can really relate to. And the drums, the style of drums that we play, the music that we play, it is relevant to our audience, and they are the youth. They're relevant to the youth, and they are very attracted to it and want to get involved. So in a city where arts is already scarce, right? This activity, this arts form is necessary. So just to go back to a little history lesson in the origins of the marching arts form, because it dates back to post-Civil War, right? Rise of bands, right? In American history, the end of war frequently coincided with an upswing in instrumental musicians, right? Military groups would build bands for the war. And once the war ended, there were many of these instruments available, right, for non-military musicians. During the Civil War, Black regiments formed bands and used them as a recruiting tool. And so these bands turned New Orleans into a hotbed of fine Black brass bands during the Reconstruction era. Many Black musicians, moved from New Orleans to other parts of the country, spreading this budding tradition of brass bands. And this spurred interest and shift in the marching tradition in America that has been slowly maturing since the Revolutionary War. Marching bands typically were primarily military in style. And you'll see as the African-American influence on the marching band activity, how it evolves into sort of what we're doing now with the Steppers. During wartime, right, we saw a boom in military musicians, lots of great bands gaining notoriety abroad, specifically in France. When these musicians returned home, they toured with civilian bands and various road shows. These road shows that have become very popular due to during the vaudeville and minstrel eras. As we entered the first quarter of the 20th century, brass had become more well-liked. Black universities started to recruit these musicians like W.C. Handy. He was, joined the faculty of Alabama A&M University, which would help lead to the foundation of what we know to be the HBCU marching band style. And as I mentioned earlier, as with many youth serving organizations, we had to figure out at Steppers, how to attract, engage, and retain youth. And, sports and other activities like it, basketball, football, baseball, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? We see the activity happening on television. We see it played out in parks, and you can, students get interested very easily. When it came to marching band, though, in New York City, there isn't really much happening. And if there was much happening, it was either an afterthought or I'm a band nerd, so I'll say it, right? It was for the nerds, right? The band geeks. And so no one wanted to be in the band. And so that's where the HBCU style opened up a huge opportunity for us, right? First, because no one was doing it in New York City the way we were doing it. And secondly, we saw an opportunity because it created a pathway to a college education. And that was the key for us, right? Because there were so many historically Black colleges that had marching bands, we saw it as a gateway for our kids. Hey, come join the band, be a part of the drum line, and then you can go off to college, sometimes on full scholarship because you were in the band. So that's kind of how we crafted the organization to focus specifically on drumline and the marching band activity, so that one, they have a great experience, right? They can, play great music. They can perform for celebrities and in television and for elected officials. But also this other side of things, hey, now that you have this skill set, let's get you to college. Let's get you to a Howard, a Hampton, and get you an education so that you can be a productive citizen in the world.
So, Antonio, do a lot of these kids come in not even thinking of college, or thinking of it, but figuring, oh, I'll never get in, I can't afford it? Or do you have to kind of tell them why going to college is important?
Yeah, a lot of the perception is they just don't know, right? They don't know what's available to them. And so a lot of them are oftentimes the first generation to even think about college, to go to college. They also come to us, to the band, when they come to the band without any musical skill, right? We're not on the street, we're not going to the Juilliard or the prep programs to get kids. These kids are in our community who have never seen a drum in their life, or never seen or played a trumpet in their life. And now we're taking them in, we're teaching them how to play, and also saying, hey, this is something that could get you somewhere, right? There are opportunities for you to go to college. And so this is, one of the big selling points of our organization, is that the kids come in without, not saying without a clue in the world, but they come in without very limited knowledge on what's available to them in terms of college.
There's a question in chat from Martha, and I don't know if you're planning to get to this later or you want to talk about it now, but important question. How does a child get into your group, the BKSteppers?
Yeah, so it's open enrollment. So let me go back a second. I'm going to get to the types of programs that we have later on, but there are several ways you can join the organization. We have school-based programs where schools contract with us and we provide a program for that particular school. Then we also have a community-based programs where anyone's available to join. So it's as simple as shooting us an email or connecting with us on social media, saying, hey, I'm interested in learning more about the organization, or getting my kid involved. We'll reach out to you and you just show up, and that's it.
Sounds easy.
Yeah. So this transition,
pretty much accept everybody. Do you ever turn people away?
No, we don't turn anybody away.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We're open to everyone. Okay. And it's free. The thing about it too is there's no cost to parents. The idea is that we want to make this accessible and affordable. The most someone will pay is maybe, even if that, for a pair of sticks. Sometimes we have partnerships with several companies that will give us in-kind donations of sticks and drum pads and instruments. So, and being a fundraiser, I'm constantly writing grants and connecting with elected officials to get support for the program. So we try to keep our costs very low, so students and parents don't have to incur the cost of anything.
Okay.
So transitioning from the rise of marching bands in the Civil War and wartime era, we get into the culture of HBCU marching bands, right? Marching bands are probably one of the most recognizable and celebrated organizations at many historically Black colleges and universities. They're often the center of culture on campus and act as important ambassadors for their university off campus. Bands are central to the HBCU experience and serve as a vital cultural feature of HBCU life. The modern HBC marching band dates back to June 1946 with the creation of the Marching 100 at Florida A&M College. That band was founded by Dr. Forster. It's funny because even at the time they called themselves the Marching 100, but the original band only had 16 members.
So they weren't good at math. Okay.
It was his vision, right? He developed the idea of the marching 100. That's what was the goal, right? Eventually, they did get to 100 and even surpassed that. At one point, they had 400 members in the marching band. But Dr. Forster at FAMU pioneered this style of marching, right? He pioneered a new style. Typically, when you look at some of the military style marching bands, right? They march with their toes like this, right? You can see my hands, like their heel toe. With the HBCU style, the marching style that was pioneered by Dr. Forster, he went to a more entertaining type of march where high stepping and horn swinging, showing off this showmanship and just creative, gait, right? They march like this and they swing their horns like this, and there's so much energy and power. And that's what sets the HBCU style marching aside from different from the core style or the military style marching. And so from the beginning, HBCU marching band performances, sought to entertain, right? They play music of all musical genres, from R&B, gospel, rap, jazz, hip hop. Even today, I don't know if you've seen the movie Drumline previously, but even they do embed some of the classics in there, like Flight of the Bumblebee and other classical repertoire. So it's just this hodgepodge of music, but it's a very, very exciting and entertaining to the audience. And one thing about marching bands at HBCUs is that, and this is probably true for several universities as well, halftime is not a time at a football game. Halftime is not a time to go to the stands, go into the concession stand to get popcorn. The bands are the halftime. They are the show, and people come back from the concession stands just to see the band. And so it's just incredible to see. Full disclosure, I never had the opportunity to participate in the HBCU band. I'd love to back in my college days. But just being around folks who've been in that experience and seeing how proud they are, and seeing, that translate into the pride of our students is just incredible to see. The HBC marching bands also act as a cultural ambassador. Dr. Forster, he envisioned HBCUs as institutions specifically for Black audiences with performances that focused on Black music, Black culture, and Black excellence. But he also felt the Marching 100 was part of a larger push for justice and anti-racism. FAMU performed at inaugurations, at Super Bowls, for Nelson Mandela. And Dr. Forster wrote at one point his feelings after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., stating that good people of all races stood up for justice, and I wanted the 100 to be part of that. And so they were constantly involved in, the push for civil rights and being involved in that activity. And so it's an incredible legacy that I'm happy to part on to our students, but also allow them to experience that as they go off into college. So today the BKSteppers embodies this HBCU marching style because it creates a gateway of opportunities for our youth in our programs in New York City, Westchester, and Rochester, New York. So what do we do and how we do it? Any questions before I will go on?
No, you can keep on marching.
Awesome.
I was going to say keep on trucking, but anyway.
So what do we do and how we do it? So specifically use the HBCU marching band style to empower students to experience personal growth and broaden their physical and psychological boundaries through exposure to different cultures, communities, and music styles. As I shared earlier, not only are we playing the top hits, right? Cool drum beats, you know, we're exposing students to other forms, other genres of music. Because I know personally, you know, being someone who's graduated with a degree in music, if you don't have certain skills in music, you know, knowing how to read music, understanding some of the core literature in certain instruments, right? The opportunities are going to be closed to you. So not only do we teach the marching band style of the HBCU, we also teach the classics, right? Fundamentals, technique. We also use this style to improve academic achievement, right? We offer in-school and after-school arts enrichment opportunities, but also provide students with resources should they need them, right? And here, this goes back to the question about, you know, what does a student have to do to join our organization? Yes, anyone can join, but we do have some standards when it comes to academic achievement and excellence, right? We want students to do well in school. So if you're not doing well in school, you won't be playing a drum for some time soon. We work with students to make sure they're not only passing their classes, but, you know, A's, B's, doing well in school. So if a student is not up to par, we have you know, folks on our team that will assist, provide academic assistance, tutoring. We'll refer them to other organizations that can support them. But at the end of the day, yes, the music is important, but also your academic achievement is important, and students are aware of that. The third piece of this is creating pathways to college, right? Creating easier pathways to college by exposing students to marching arts curriculum that can translate into college acceptance and possible scholarships. But also, we have partnerships with several HBCUs, and students in their junior year are invited to connect with college admissions officers and band directors to, you know, see what it takes to take that next step. What do they need to prepare for an audition to really succeed at that institution? And so we offer, these are our programs here. We offer in-school, after-school, Saturday and summer dance, hand drumming, and percussion lessons. We are dedicated to not only ensuring that students receive hands-on arts education in school, after school, and on weekends, but to the vision that every student has the ability to succeed musically, and the opportunity to attend college and become model citizens in the world. And so this is a list of some of the programs that we have currently operating. Traditionally, so there are two ways that, three ways that someone can, two ways that someone can get involved with the programs, right? As I mentioned, they can attend a school where the school brings in our program, or they can attend a school where we've raised money to bring that program into the school. So in our public schools, so Public School 139, 316, and Hawtree Creek, those three programs are funded either by the school itself or a city council member who is so graciously enough to provide support. And so I'm constantly doing the city council dance every year for resources to bring our programs into schools. And so I'll show you a clip in just a minute on like some of our school programs, but the programs at 139 and PS 139, Public School 316, this is our younger kids. So I would say kindergarten through fifth graders. And what I found, and this is true for most, I guess, developmental activities, right? In order to get our kids to fully commit and be dedicated to something long term, we have to get them early. And so getting them in elementary school and middle school is how we set them up for success in high school and beyond. What we found in our own analysis and observation is that if we get students in their senior year or junior year of high school, it's a little bit more challenging to get them on the path to college. Not impossible, but there are other pulling forces to get them on track. So we try to specifically work with public elementary schools and middle schools because we have a greater chance of keeping them with the organization for a while. And selfishly, it allows us to really show the impact that our program has. Right? If a student's with us when they're in kindergarten and they stay with us through high school, we've got data, right? We can show the success of what we're doing. We can show the transformation that's occurring in our program. So we really strive for working with the younger kids. And I gotta say, like, I'm not really, no, I'm saying I'm not really good, but I have to really commend our teaching artists because I couldn't do what they do at that level with kindergarteners, first graders. They're just impeccably talented when it comes to getting these kids to do the things that they do with the drums, with their dance movements. So it's really inspiring. Then we have a very unique partnership with a charter school system. So the Uncommon Schools is a charter school network in Brooklyn. They have some sites in Boston, also in Rochester. And so they brought us in to 5 of their schools. So 4 here in Brooklyn and 1 in, Rochester, 1 in Rochester. And we're providing after school drumline to sophomores and juniors. And so building up that interest, that excitement around the drum, but also creating that pathway for them to go to college. And then our 2 community programs, BKSteppers Drumline and X Factor Drumline, these are open to anyone that wants to participate. So if you have a child or a grandson or a granddaughter who wants to drum or dance, these programs are open to anyone. There's no audition. We take everyone. We will teach you. We will train you. We'll also make sure that you are prepared for the next step in life, which is college and a career. So our questions before I move on?
Do you find any difference working with the charter schools and working with public schools?
The biggest difference, I'll say, the biggest difference between charter and public schools is the resources. The kids are the same. They're from the same communities. It's just the school itself has a little bit more resources and flexibility. Working with the Department of Education, there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy you navigate through, and that's anywhere. But with the Uncommon School, the charter schools, they're open to testing new things. They brought us in as a pilot program several years ago, and they liked it, and they decided to continue funding it. It's a little bit challenging to convince public schools administrators that this is valuable, that this can help their kids, and also it's challenging for them to find the resources to support it. That's probably the biggest thing.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt. When you go to public schools, is it on a 1-by-1 basis, or do you have to go through the Department of Education?
It's a 1-by-1 basis.
Okay. So
it's a principal to principal. And so if the principal doesn't see, well, I'm not saying doesn't see the value in the arts, but the principal their hands are tied because of budget, they more often than not aren't going to bring something new into the school. The other challenge too is, and we had this happen recently because of budget cuts in funding, So if the funding comes from a city council member for several years, and then election is the next year, and they're no longer in office, that program may or may not happen because of funding.
Right.
And so we're always trying to balance between, you know, the schools contributing something to the program if they get funding from city council member, because there has to be some buy-in. If not, when the funding goes away from that particular council member, it's either the program ceases to exist, or we're scrambling to find resources to support that program.
So a lot of your work, it sounds like, is dealing with just trying to work with the schools and not just the kids, right?
Yeah, that's my job. My job is handling all the administrative aspects of the organization. I do try to get in and teach and keep my chops up to par. But a lot of it is navigating the different schools, right? Principals and funding streams and city council members, and
Wow.
following the elections and seeing who's going to get in office, and making sure I get those appointments and meetings set. So it's a dance.
Right. Okay.
It's a dance, but it's a worthwhile dance, I will say. It's
Thank
a
you.
worthwhile dance. Yeah. And so participants in our program are impacted in several ways. Not only do they become part of a supportive community, an environment that fosters collaboration, creativity, and self-exploration, as they perform and grow, they achieve so many positive benefits, right? I'm probably speaking to the choir here, because you all, as you were going through school, you probably had music programs that were robust, right? I remember I was going to school, we had a band program. I mean, these days, you'd be lucky if you found a recorder in a classroom, So we know the benefit of the arts, of music in general, right? Our job is twofold: one, to educate the folks that make the decisions about the value of the arts, and secondly, to ensure that organizations, like myself and other organizations that are doing fill in the gap, are able to do that in a way that's meaningful for our students. So I've got one more video I want to share with you, and this is another. You'll see some of the little kids actually in this one doing some. This is actually during COVID. We were all virtual, and so we had to figure out a way to engage the kids. Now that was tough, especially when you're dealing with kindergarten and first graders on Zoom. Definitely a challenge, but we got them to record themselves doing some bucket drumming and stuff. We put together a little presentation that we share with their families at the end of the program. And then you'll see, our dance program as well in some, it's a promo video that we did. Yeah. So thank you. So different levels, right? You've got the young dancers, the young kindergarten bucket drummers, and you have our older kids doing some creative things during the pandemic when we couldn't go outside. We recorded some lessons for the younger kids. So lots of uh, lots of things happening there.
Antonio, I just want to say the video part where you show the little kids and then each one has his or her name on screen. And I particularly like the kid with the shades, but anyway, that was great to give them individual recognition. That was wonderful.
Yeah, they work. I mean, they work so hard, and it's just like, we want to showcase what they've done. But yeah, the kids are all incredible. They really buy into the program. They love what they do, and we just, hope that we continue to support them along the way.
Terrific.
I do want to share a couple success stories in terms of our alumni, because you've seen, our current program, our kids performing now. You're wondering, maybe wondering, like, what do they do when they leave us? Where do they go? And so, as I mentioned before, I didn't highlight this initially, but oops, I'm way at the beginning. Don't want to be there. Start here. So success stories, I shared earlier, we're in 8 schools. We did a progression clinic that served a lot of people virtually. We also did a workshop with 2-time Olympic gold medalist, Dr. Edwin Moses and Adidas. It was really just during the pandemic, and Adidas came to us and said, hey, we want to do something interesting and new for our top executives to talk to foster a collaboration and creativity. And so we put together a workshop with Olympic gold medalist Dr. Edwin Moses, for their executives. And then some performance highlights that I didn't mention is we've done a lot of great things, from Carnegie Hall to Macy's, to participating in the 2009 parade for President Obama, the Letterman show, or Late Show with Stephen Colbert. We've also done Knicks, Nets, Giants games. I think, what else have we done? Disney movies, Disney Enchanted. We were in a park scene, but there's so many things that we're so grateful for, in terms of being able to provide opportunities for our kids to get that exposure.
Can you talk a little bit? The Obama inauguration was a very, very big deal for so many people, particularly for Black people. Can you talk about what that day was like, what it was like being there? You were at the White House, I believe, and what it meant to your kids.
Yeah, it was cold.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible moment for everyone involved, our students, our staff, parents, and I would say it was quite emotional, right? To be able to take part in such a historic event. Definitely the cold was no match for the adrenaline. Kids were excited. They performed their hearts out in that parade. And, to say that they were able, this is a resume, showstopper, right? To say that they were able to perform at President Obama's inauguration is just incredible. But it was a great experience. I would go as far as to say it was probably the highlight of this organization's performance career and performance resume, to be a part of that parade.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
You mentioned Macy's very briefly. That's a Macy's Day Parade. That's always been a big deal, a Thanksgiving Day Parade, and it was stopped for a while and came back. Can you tell us more about that experience too, please?
That was very similar to the inauguration. It was very cold. And
Why don't they have these things in the summer? Okay.
yeah, exactly. They were both very long days too. So with Macy's, they have rehearsal the night before. So we had to, if I remember correctly, the night before Thanksgiving, we had a midnight or 1 a.m. rehearsal down 34th Street, because when you get to the cameras, they want to make sure they get the right angles and to make sure that the formations are correct. So we got on a bus, drove to Manhattan for a 1 a.m. rehearsal, did our field or show on the stage, went back to Brooklyn, slept for like 2 hours, then went all the way up to, was it 96th Street at the time, far up Central Park, and just waited there for hours before the parade stepped off. So it was a long day, but it was, again, one of a highlight of our career. Just like being able to be a part of the Macy's parade is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hate to ask this question, but what do they do about going to the bathroom? Have any breaks along the way?
They're
Or
porta
if it's too
potties.
gross, you don't have to tell me, but yeah.
They're porta potties along the way.
Okay, good.
But
Good. Yeah.
yeah.
So, question in chat from Elaine: who picks the group to perform?
It's the question, like, who picks the students to perform at these events?
Elaine, you want to come on in, and if you can unmute, just tell us a little more what you're asking, and then we'll call on Karen also.
Yeah, I want to know how the group gets picked to perform in the parades.
Oh, how does the
Yeah.
Macy's people pick people? Yeah.
So Macy's was an application, and they typically will pick one group from each state to perform. So they usually have 50 bands performing in Puerto Rico sometimes too. But usually have 50 bands performing, one from each state, and we got chosen the year that we did it for New York City.
Okay.
And
So
same thing.
your name is always in the hat? Always
We try to
out there?
we try to put our name in that hat all the time if we can. With the other performances, like the Colbert Show and Carnegie Hall, folks reach out to us all the time for performances, and we negotiate with them on price point, and everything we raise goes back into the program. So I didn't mention this too. We give scholarships to seniors that graduate as well. So they do performances and the organization gets revenue. We put that into a scholarship fund for our kids when they graduate. But we get called all the time for bar mitzvahs, weddings, corporate events, and depending on our availability and if it doesn't conflict with school, we will try to do it. And the way we choose performers for these events based on their grades and have they been showing up at rehearsals and learning the music. So it's an incentive for them to do well in school, because they do well in school, they just might be in the parade for Obama. Just never know. Yeah.
Have you been to the Rose Bowl parade?
We have not. That's a good one. That's is that during Thanksgiving too, right? The Rose Bowl parade around that same time.
I think so. Karen would know.
But it won't be cold because you'll be in California.
Pasadena.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can try for that. Karen, you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how astounded I was when I first saw the HBCU concept of marching band. It's just so theatrical and there are so many elements involved. And I was in my high school marching band, and we got thousands of people because football was very big and we were the halftime show. But all we did was form the letters of our high school, and the music we played was John Philip Sousa. We thought it was a really big deal when we got to play the March on the Bridge of the River Kwai. That was something. It wasn't John Philip Sousa,
Yeah.
But the dance elements involved are fantastic. I mean, there must be is there a choreographer that's involved in creating the movement for the bands?
Yeah, there's several creative folks on the team that coordinate that stuff. So from the dance routines to the formations to even, how each band has their way of their marching style. And so there's someone that makes sure that's, consistent throughout the ensemble. So there's a team behind it all.
Antonio, I know you want us to drum, but I have a question before that, and then
Yeah.
and maybe other people do too, of course. We had a class just yesterday on a program called Art Speak, in which Broadway actors speak to school children, public school children down in the DC area, and the kids get to ask questions, and it's a back and forth. And so it's sort of similar in a different way, fine. So I have a very basic question. If you had to make the case for why the arts matter, there are a lot of things that matter, particularly when things are difficult. What would you say? Why do they matter in general? Why do they matter to the group you're working with? And why should we care?
Yeah. The arts matter because it hits a different part of the brain, right? The arts are about possibility. It's about creativeness, and math and science, they're all great. English is great, but oftentimes our students don't have that. How do I say? Students don't feel as free, right? And aren't as, don't feel constrained or restricted, right? So they sometimes feel stuck in their situation, in their environment, and the arts allow them to escape, right? Allow them to create a new possibility, a new world for themselves. And so, if I can take a kid who is in a difficult situation at home, right? And just for an hour escape that and drum and be free and be, passionate about something, that gives them hope, right? I had one quick story. I had one kid, this is years ago when I was probably in my early 20s, approaching 40 now, but early 20s, I had a kid I was working with, and he had a terrible situation at home. And I told this kid, hey, just keep drumming, keep practicing the drum, because that's your escape. That's your way out of the situation. Because once you go off to college, you're on your own, right? You don't have to go back to the situation if you don't want to, but you have to get there. You have to get to college. So he practiced his drum. He ended up going to South Carolina State University. He now lives in South Carolina and has a photography business and doing very well. He still, communicates with his family, but he's not stuck in that situation anymore. So I believe the arts provides that escape for a lot of kids that need it.
It's interesting because we also had a session yesterday talking about is college necessary, and should a four-year college in particular, and does it matter? Why does it matter, etc. So obviously you believe it is important. You have a college degree, you have a master's degree. How do you make the case for college?
Yeah, I'm in between on that at this point. Like, I think for some it's a necessity. Not saying a four-year degree is necessary, but some form of higher education is important. So whether it's a two-year school or a trade school or something is important. I think for the population that we serve, college is an escape, but it's also allows them to pick up on skills that they didn't get in high school, especially in the public schools, because there are a lot of things that are lacking educationally in this public school system. And so by them going off to even a community college, they'll get the knowledge and the skills that they need to thrive as an adult at that institution. So I believe college is important. Is it a necessity for everyone? I don't think so. The proof is in like the YouTube generation, and like you can learn anything online. So, but I do think for some kids it is important for them to go to school and just get away from home. That's probably the biggest thing for a lot of kids, to get away from home.
That's why I went.
Yeah.
But that's why I went to the college I went to.
Yeah.
Let's go to Rosie, and then we're going to ask everybody to unmute and preferably come on the screen, and we'll have a
Yeah.
little drumming. But Rosie, jump on in, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I would have been a better everything had I had music in my life, or performing arts or anything related to arts. I was a hard worker, but I think I would have been a better worker. I would have been a better person. I would have done everything better had I had the freedom to express myself, which I didn't. I was stifled. So yeah, I think it's very important to have arts in your life.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Likewise.
And it's something that throughout your life really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now
It's
for
never-
the drums, I'm terrified.
It's never too late, you know.
Okay, we're ready for you.
I'm
Antonio.
gonna go get my chopsticks.
All right. So
Okay. And it'd be great if, as I say, if people can unmute, it's up to you, and also show yourself on video. But here we
Yeah.
go.
So we're just gonna do some call and response. Basically, I'll play something and then you play the same thing I played, just to create that teamwork, that communication through music. It may be a little bit challenging through Zoom because sound may arrive to you a little bit later, but we'll see what we can do. We're doing these in beats of 4. So if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Let's do rhythms continuously and just repeat what I do, and it'll get more complex as we go on. Okay. All right, here we go. Everybody got the chopsticks or your pencils or whatever ready? All right, so here I'm gonna start. 1, 2, and 1, 2, ready, and. Yeah, it's a little hard with Zoom, with the audio. But the idea is to have this sort of conversation with each other through the sticking. Zoom makes it very difficult because the audio never lines up. But
the call and response, I think I didn't get the hang of it. You might want to, if you could try it again.
yeah,
We watch you, and then we try to do the same thing, right?
correct.
Not
Yes,
at the same time as you. Okay.
correct. Yeah, I'll do it first, and you do it after I do it. So immediately after I do it, so I'm gonna do 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. But the rhythm may change, but the beat stays consistent. Okay, let's try it again. We'll do a couple iterations of it. All right, I'm gonna go first. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4. You go 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
A little tough.
Did anyone hear it?
I
Not
was-
really.
You know, it's
You
hard
can
on
only hear
Zoom.
me clacking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard on Zoom.
So, Tony, this has been a great session. Anything more you can tell us about yourself and what you gained from this and what it means to you and what else you're doing in your life? We'd love to know more about you.
Yeah. So I've always had like this heart of just giving back. And so, you know, when I graduated from college, thought I wanted to be a musician playing full time. But I found my calling in fundraising. And so when I started working with the Steppers, I found a connection, right? So fundraising with a cause that I'm passionate about. And so, you know, part of my life's work is working with kids, helping to help them achieve success in their life, because I know the value of an arts education, right? I know firsthand how arts experiences can change your life. I grew up in the same neighborhoods these kids are from. And so to be a part of music and to be able to perform, that was my escape from everything else I could have been doing in the streets. And so I do the Steppers on a full-time basis. I also run a marketing agency where I run ad campaigns for different types of businesses. So realtors, insurance agents. I kind of just stumbled upon that and got excited about it. So through some YouTube videos, learned some things, and now people hire me to run some ads for them. And when I'm not doing that, I enjoy playing my trumpet, learning bass guitar, and dabbling in the kitchen.
Okay, well, keep on strumming. We thank you so much for a really inspiring class. I'm going to put a note in our email at Friday, and if people want to donate, it is a nonprofit. So thank you. We're going to all in unison. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you.